Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Please drop the charges against me. I really want to keep stealing from your store that I'm not actually allowed to be in. The crazy lady in our first story seems to have lost her mind, so get ready, guys. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Steal from my store? Guess not anymore. So this happened about 1.5 years ago, give or take. I was promoted to front-end manager of the local grocery store I worked at. I liked my job at the time until a terrible manager was brought in and I had to quit. But that's not what this is about. The location of the store meant there was a lot of thievery, people snagging chocolate bars or a couple small produce items, which I didn't normally care about. It wasn't often the same people, and hey, everybody's got to eat. But this one lady, every day without fail, kept coming in once the loss prevention guy was on break, or there were only a couple staff in, and absolutely fill her bag with anything she could get her hands on. If anyone tried to approach her or talk to her, she would cuss us out and throw things at us from the bag. It really got on my nerves. Eventually, me and my store manager both banned her from the store, but she continued to come back. We reported her to the police for the stealing and trespassing, but they never did anything about it because it wasn't a big enough crime, I guess. Anyway, one day she comes in once again and enough is enough. I shout at her as she darts past the tills and tell her to stop and empty her bag, reminding her that she was already banned from the store. Well, she starts chucking random items at me from her purse and keeps going for the door. I keep walking, intent on stopping at the door and just yelling at her not to come back. However, she changed that right quick. The bee turns around in the doorway and just hawks a huge, gross loogie right at me. I managed to sidestep, thank God. Who knows what this crusty bee's carrying, but I'm seeing red. I take off after her into the parking lot, kind of just losing my crap. Guess it was my turn to cuss her out. Meanwhile, my staff member follows me and she's calling the cops while I'm busy reaming this woman out across the plaza. My staff's giving them a description and an explanation of what happened because, as it turns out, spitting on someone is grounds for assault charges in Canada. Well, in the end, they caught her with stolen goods and she was charged with assault last April. We never saw her again while I was working there, and she would catch additional charges if she ever came near me again. I went shopping at my old store about a month ago, however, and was chatting with another longtime employee. Apparently, that same woman cornered her in the parking lot after work like a week before to beg her to get me to drop the assault charges, so that's pretty whack. The employee's fine. She actually thought it was funny when she was telling me, considering in Canada it's the police that press charges, not the victims. And our second story. I kicked everyone out of my house. 2 years ago, my wife and I bought a house. It's relatively large and spacious and also includes a guest house. It's also our first house. I was the first one of my family to buy a house as we've never had that before. Both mine and my wife's family grew up very poor and we managed to get ourselves into a relatively comfortable lifestyle, having successful careers. At the time, my mother and her boyfriend were living in a pretty bad area. Just months before we moved, they had a guy gunned down right in front of their apartment, so I told my mom I'd get her out of there as soon as I was able to. We got the house and moved her into the guest house immediately. After crunching the numbers on bills, we settled at $1,200 a month flat rate for her and her boyfriend to stay with us, which overall is cheaper than their old apartment. A couple of months go by at the new house, and my wife's dad loses his job. Well, we had a spare bedroom and moved him in with us free of charge so he could get on his feet. About 6 months into the new house, my sister gets really sick and can no longer work. She and her 3 boys move in. I'm now supporting an entire second family who's living with me for free, plus my dad's wife who's now working. 2 years later, all of them are still living with us. A year ago, my mom informed me that her and her boyfriend couldn't afford the $1,200 rate we agreed to and asked to lower to $800 a month. I agreed. My sister still can't work, however, she also has substance abuse issues, which I believe is causing, or at least definitely not helping, with her ability to work and her sickness. I've already had to kick her out once, but my mom insisted that she move back in because she's worried if we don't take care of her, then she'll end up dead somewhere. My wife and I have been together for 7 years. One of the goals we set was to ensure our kids do not grow up like we did in poverty. We managed to achieve that and get a dream house. however, have not had any chance to actually enjoy the house to ourselves because there's so many people. My kids barely have space of their own in this house we bought for them to do just that. I just got an email this morning that electricity rates have doubled in my renewal notice. Gas and groceries are up. Natural gas is up on the house. My mom's the only one contributing, and my wife and I are going crazy. I'm planning a family meeting tonight with everyone to talk, but I want everyone gone. My mom's boyfriend makes decent money as well. She'll be taken care of. My wife's dad has a job. I'm sure he'll be fine. My sister and her boys are the only ones I'm worried that I'm kicking out to the streets. I know this is probably going to be a huge argument, and chances are I'm going to alienate my sister and my mom by doing this. Update. Because after the first talk with my family, we had several others. I gave everyone 2 months to move out. This seemed like the fairest option to me because while I know they've been with me for 2 years, they clearly were not looking for other options. My sister was heartbroken and upset, but not angry. It really seemed like she understood the situation and that as much as I'd love to help her, it was time for her to move on. She's already found a place to stay for a while with her kids and is working to get back on her feet. She's getting the rest of her stuff out this weekend. My father-in-law was honestly surprised. I guess he wasn't expecting this to happen, even though from the get-go we've been telling him this is not a permanent situation. I haven't seen much of him this last week, and he didn't have much to add to the conversation. During the meeting, he said he would have been fine giving us some money while he was staying here, but I told him he never offered, and I never forced him. I was expected that he was saving up to get a place. I told him to save his money for the move and that he'll have up to 2 months like everyone else. My mom and her boyfriend are a bit of a different story here, though. I brought them with me to the house to get them out of an already bad situation. The house has a guest house, which is where they stay at. We came to an agreement that she can continue staying in the guest house, but will have to contribute more to the household with bills going up. The guest house is completely separated from the main house, and they're not encroaching on my kids' space. Another agreement that we made is that my sister absolutely cannot stay here, regardless of situation. If she needs financial help to find a place or for her medicine, we'll help out from time to time remotely. It also can't be so much that she comes to depend on us, but if it were a life and death situation, then we'd obviously do the right thing there. And our next story. Don't mess with a self-made millionaire's bread and butter. I was working for a fellow named Max who built a business from the ground up. He came to Canada from Europe as a child, as a World War II refugee with his parents, penniless. A real success story, and the nicest guy you would ever want to work for. We see a few posts in this sub about a-hole bosses. Max was the opposite. His business was built around packaging. It was a slitter/rewinder operation. It takes wide rolls of material, slits it into strips, then rewinds it onto cores. Max developed and patented a process that was able to put 15 to 20 times more material on a finished core than any of his competitors. You've seen a roll of masking tape? Picture a stack of 10 rolls about 2 or 3 times the diameter, but all wound onto a single core. We made a number of products. You know the infuriating tear tape that you use to open a pack of cigarettes or a CD? Yeah, we made that. We also had a client in Germany that would send us big rolls of raw elastic material, which we would slit and then send back to them. It was used for, if you can believe it, baby diaper legs. The elastic that holds the diaper to the infant's leg gently but firmly. The Germans once visited our factory, and Max treated them royally. They took photos of everyone, including the machine operators next to the machines, the raw materials, and the finished product. Now, for those of you who aren't parents, babies are little crap factories, and the baby diaper business is enormous. We're talking about $50 billion annually worldwide. So our client's contract is coming up for renewal in a month or two, and Max isn't seeing much in the way of interest. Remember, if they go with a competitor, they'll have to shut down their machines much more frequently to change the rolls of elastics for the legs. This doesn't make much sense as it would slow production down considerably. Max reaches out and gets a very non-committal response. Something's fishy. Now you have to remember that this business is Max's baby, and he was both the nicest guy and one of the most tenacious and determined men I'd ever met. So Max arranged for some detectives in Germany to investigate. They reported that the client hadn't retooled their machines to accept the competition spools, nor did they appear to have any plans to. The detectives also discovered that some people connected with the German factory had set up a factory of their own, a slitter factory. Yep, those sneaky guys were about to open their own plant to supply spools of baby diaper leg elastic to the diaper factory and save themselves the cost of shipping the material to Canada for processing. And they were going to duplicate exactly the rolls they were getting from us. So Max waits until the moment the renewal option on the contract expires, then slaps this new factory with an injunction for patent infringement. Well, now the shice has hit the fan. The baby diaper factory has a stock of elastic that'll run out in days. For them to retool their machines to accept a competitor's rolls will take weeks, and they have commitments to the brand name companies that package and retail the diapers. So guess who starts burning up the phones to reach Max? Max knows that they're spending a fortune on transatlantic shipping to move the product, so he renegotiates to include a much higher price for processing, as well as a clause where he handles the shipping costs. Again, at a boost to the price. The factory really has no choice, they have to sign. It's that or take massive non-compliance penalties from their customer. Then, having cut a deal where he makes a price per load of product to handle the logistics, he turns to the new factory itself. You see, they'd invested heavily in new slitters, then modified them to produce Max's cores. They couldn't be used in production due to the injunction and couldn't be returned to the manufacturer due to the modifications. They were looking at a long and protracted legal battle that was set to cost a bundle in lawyers' fees. Max offered to drop the legal battle and buy the factory at much less than it was worth. They had no choice. They had to sell. And it was in the same city as the baby diaper factory. So Max now bumped his price and was compensated shipping per load of product as if the load had come from overseas, when actually it was just down the road. We ended up using the excess production capacity in Canada to market these cores to North American diaper factories, and the factory in Germany started making inroads into the European markets. All in all, it was a nice win for Max and put him into an unusually good mood for quite some time. And our last story. Well, that's the wrong kind of tank. Not my malicious compliance, but one from London. With the UK being the UK, you need permission from the council to do anything on your plot of land. One gentleman owned a plot of land on Mandela Way in London and wanted to develop some property on the land. However, the council did not want this to go through and turned him down. Cue his malicious compliance. He wrote to the council to put a tank on the land. The council thought he meant a septic tank, when in fact he meant a T-34 Russian tank used during the Prague Spring of 1968. When he placed the tank on the land, he pointed the barrel in the direction of the council building as a final screw you. The council cannot remove it, as technically they gave him full permission to place the tank on the land. So he's not allowed to build there, but sure, he's allowed to build a septic tank. Honestly, why were they expecting him to put a septic tank in the middle of an empty lot? Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.